Welcome to the Life as an Observer podcast. My name is Ryan Bean. I am your host in self-observation. This podcast is an exploration of physical and non-physical self through discussion around yoga, meditation, self-improvement, self-realization, and practices that elevate the mind-body-soul connection. Let's start observing. Welcome to Life as an Observer podcast. Today, I get the really amazing opportunity to sit down, crossing legs, yogi style with TJ Eisenhart, and competitive cyclist and artist, and really talk about the change from competitive mindset into more relaxing into true nature, into self, utilizing just some techniques for mindfulness and meditation, and still being able to be relevant without the same pressures of numbers and results. Really interesting conversation that we embark into. Enjoy. So here we are after breath work, and we did some meditation. We did some cold immersion. So I'm sitting here with TJ Eisenhart, a competitive cyclist, an artist, and we met each other doing the same thing. We met each other doing breath work and getting into cold water, like just the right kind of crazies. People will say that we're nuts for doing it, but we're the right kind of crazies, I think. And I think at that time when you and I met, you were just making a transition from one kind of chapter in your life to another. You were sort of transitioning, or at least considering the idea of how can I make this your collective a thing, and how can I combine my three loves, family, art, and cycling, into one life that I choose, not that a competitive world chooses for you. So if I can, kind of tell me a little bit about the story before this one. Tell me about who you were before you moved into that where we met.
Yeah, so I grew up in Lehigh, Utah, typical kind of Mormon boy, raised. At the age of 8, I had the opportunity to go to Spain to visit my brother, who had just finished an LDS mission there, and we were able to watch the Tour de France go through the Pyrenees there in Spain. And instantly, when we saw it, my family fell in love with it, and I fell in love with it, and knew I wanted to pursue professional cycling at the age of 8. So that's like fourth graders knowing, okay, in fourth grade, this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Like, I just knew. And then, I grew up with parents that believed in me and would do anything for me to succeed. And so I did just that. All of a sudden you're winning the local stuff, then you're traveling to different states and winning those, then you're being selected to race for the national team. And at that time, you're living this life where that's all it was my life. Like, that's all.
So from the time you were like 10, you were like...
From the time I was born, I was... My brother and sister have always been in athletic sports. My brother played baseball in college, and my sister was a professional dancer, and still teaches at BYU and other universities now. But so I always grew up with that mentality, and I kind of felt like right when I was born, it was like, all right, you're going to be a professional baseball player. And so then you're always just playing ball. And that's the vision. And until I was 8 and fell in love with cycling, and I knew that's what I was going to be. And then my first national championships at age 12, I got second in the time trial. And so then everyone's like, wow, you have a talent. You could do something. And it's like, you're 12 years old. You just were faster than this other 12-year-old. Like, yeah, you might be good, but it doesn't mean you're anywhere in life yet.
So at 12 years old, were your parents like kind of like the the Hollywood moms and dads, where they were like right there supporting you, rah rah rah?
Yeah.
Or were they like, or were you kind of like fulfilling the family dream? Like, is your whole family pretty competitive? It seems like they are.
Yeah, it was a balance of like my whole family, we're super competitive and we love sports. And as soon as I was starting to race professionally, they were the ones out there on the side of the road with the giant faces and the billboards and the signs, and we were making merchandise, and they were going crazy, and they just loved it. My family, we love supporting each other. So if like my niece is having a dance recital, we're there. If we're this, we're there, and we support And so that's what they just always did for me. They never put like harsh, like it never was like, oh, I have to ride. It was always I wanted to ride, and they would always just help me pursue my dreams and show me like this is what I want to do. And yeah, so I was just living this lifestyle of like very one-sided, very very one-sided, where if cycling went away, my life went away. That's how I felt.
Well, what does that look like as a competitive cyclist? What does that look like for training, and what does an actual like competitive race circuit look like?
It's your life. It has to be your life because you're doing these races that are 10 days long, or the Tour de France, which is 21 days long. And so each one of those days you're doing about 100 to 120 miles, and so you have to have your body trained and at a level where you can handle that stress and overload. So your body's at just this constant kind of fragile state, because it's training for 4 or 5 hours every day. And then when you train, then you got to make sure you're recovering when you're finishing so you can train the next day. And so your life becomes very much so about numbers and achieving new power tests and winning this race.
Yeah.
But
like different goals, different baselines, different stats for what you need to do if you're going to win this race. Yeah,
when your life is one-sided like that and you're not able to achieve those power numbers, or one day you were able to exceed those power numbers and the next you weren't, you're only as good as that day. So then you feel terrible about yourself. On the day before you thought you were the king of the world. Mm-hmm. Same with winning a race. You can win a race, but guess what? That's what I realized quick is that joy, it goes away faster than it came. And you put in years and years of work to get that, and it just goes away because then you realize the only place for me to go after this is to lose.
So I wonder if...
So you're setting it up, like...
Yeah.
So when you're once... And... sorry, not to say that's a bad way of... not saying that competitive racing is bad at all. My way of living was imbalanced. Yeah. So had I been feeding other things in my life, that would have been fine to put that strain on it. But when then racing wasn't going well, it felt like life wasn't going well. So then all of a sudden, you're alone in Europe. People are thinking you're living the dream. You're living this lifestyle. You're so lucky. And then some days you don't even. You're like, what am I doing? Like with my life, this sucks. Like,
yeah,
I'm in Belgium right now. It's pissing rain, and like I have terrible fitness, and I miss my family, and this and that, and like it just takes. If I would have had more balance in my life rather than focusing on just my training aspect and results, I would have been fine.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you kind of defined a yogic term which is called santosha. Santosha means contentment in Sanskrit. So, and that is one of the it's in the Yoga Sutras to find this place of santosha, mm-hmm. where we are equal or
mm-hmm.
find equanimity, whether the highs or the lows.
Yeah.
And it seems like in that time, if I'm hearing that, is it was very much high or low, and there was no contentment with the in between. And so it brings you to a place of saying, if I'm not high or low, I need to get high, because high is good.
That's where
low is bad, right? And there's no in between, and there's no saying low is just going to happen. It's just going to have to get high again, and so you're continually trying to fulfill maybe a feeling or a sensation or a goal at every given moment. So then we fast forward. So you're kind of living like your body's probably in a constant state mm-hmm. of stress.
Oh yeah.
Expectation, stress from beating the pavement, stress from the heat, stress from the nature beating on you, mm-hmm. of traveling just in general is stress.
Yeah.
So here you are in a constant state of stress, and maybe your wife helped with this, or maybe you had some other influences that said you gotta find some balance here.
Yeah, my wife definitely, that was the major turning point. So like I said, so I was living this super one-sided lifestyle, racing for then at the age of 18 BMC, and then I raced for them for 4 years, which BMC was the highest pro team at that time. So I'm thinking to myself, I've made it. Like, I've done it. I've basically signed for the Yankees, in baseball terms. And you're like, all right, like, but I never I was always just pushing and pushing and pushing. And now that I look back, I way overtrained, way overdid it. But for those years, I just was always way too naive, way trusting others and trying to be what everyone wanted me to be, not being me.
Yeah.
I kept trying to be what BMC would expect me to be, or what my family, or this or the coach, like, and you try putting all these molds together, and it's like, no, like, now I see I should have just been myself. And it sounds easy to say, but it's not. And then after those 4 years, I was told by BMC they weren't going to sign me, and so I had this moment of like, well, all right, like, what do I have to lose? Let's just open up. So I started to slowly open up, be more expressive, be more myself, and I signed for this American team, raced for them for 3 years. But that first year I raced for them in 2017, that first year I started allowing myself to be myself. I started having incredible success and winning like every race on the calendar, or being second. Like, I was up there every time. And then it just fed this ego where I look back now and you just felt like you were untouchable by anyone. I mean, you just do things that were like, now you just look. And meeting Heather for me was that, like, had I not allowed myself to, I feel like, allow that relationship to grow, had I just like maybe dated her and moved on and focused on my cycling, I would be just deep down so miserable. I might be racing a world tour, or I might be doing this, but like, I just would be miserable because I know I want to be doing what I should be doing. It felt like I was swimming up a current, like I was in the right waters, but I should have been flowing with it. And that's, again, meditation. When I started that last year, because once I left those 3 years of professional racing with the American team, I then was like, you know what? I'm having a daughter, getting married. I want to, I want to succeed. I want it to be on me. Like, I don't want to, because when I was on that American team, I had a 2-year deal that in the second year they cut the contract in half, but money-wise, because they lost a sponsor. So it didn't matter if I raced well that whole year. The team
You're still making less. Yeah.
You still got cut. Like, you still got half
not
your
based
money.
on your results.
Not based. What they tell
you
you is, so it's like, well, what good was that whole year then? What did I just do that for? Because now you're going into the next year with knowing your wife is pregnant, you just got married, like, and I didn't want. I said, all right, if I'm not going to get paid, it's going to be because I didn't get paid. Okay. I didn't put that work in. And I realized, well, I have that ability to do that through my artwork. I have all this ability to talk to people and communicate to people. So I started, like, all right, I want to do my own thing, venture off and do my own spirited thing, because I just was feeling like washed out with the racing. I found myself not training as hard, found myself not just racing as hard, because it was like, oh, great, we're doing the same race we did 4 years in a row. Like, what more? Like, so, even if you won it, like, what, you just win it again? And for me, like I said, for a lot of people that's awesome, and for people who win multiple championships and multiple everything, that's amazing. But for me, I realized it just wasn't fulfilling that like itch inside of me. And I realized, what if I can combine all three of these, my art, cycling, and I realized as well, like, I felt like the cycling industry was targeting, like, be faster, be lighter, be quicker, be stronger. Just, yeah. When I felt like, well, most people, like 99% of the population that ride a bike because they just like how it feels. They can't all experience or have that same feeling that it feels like to win in a big, like, pro race. Yeah. Only a certain few can feel that. So why wouldn't you target their emotions to get them to do? So then I started thinking, like, why don't I just make this program about, like, capturing the vibe, atmosphere of what makes bike riding, well, specifically gravel racing, great. And it was funny, right as I met you last April or March, right as I was starting this program, this Imaginary Collective, which is the name of the brand, the company, and I started last January with my partner Andrew Dahlheim, and and that January we had set our calendar to be like 3 races a month. All these, like, I was still rolling at that mindset of like, I gotta race, I gotta do this. Like, I gotta do this. And then obviously COVID hit, and you're panicking. You're like, oh man, this is gonna be like, I'm a bike racer that's not gonna race. Like, all right, I just got, like, you figure this out, and then you're panicked about money. And I was like, at that time, I was super panicked about how to make money, and it was like, then, like I said, we met you, and I started doing this meditation, and I started doing the cold water, and it just helped me slowly open up. And I mean, it wasn't like the next week all the anxiety was gone. It was like when I first did it, it opened up something where you're like, oh wow, that felt good. All right, let's try see where this goes.
So you didn't have a practice before. Your
No,
practice,
no,
your practice was
I would always
physical practice, riding the bike, exercising. That was your practice.
Yeah,
So
and I would always tell that to people, like, oh no, like, cycling's my meditation.
yeah.
This.
It's being on the road, being in
Yeah.
nature. That's my practice. Which it
I mean,
can
it
be.
can. It's only a state awareness. That's meditation.
So what does your practice look like now?
Now it's every day. Depending, it doesn't really matter on the day as long as I get it in. But usually like 30 minutes of the Wim Hof breath work. Yeah, and then but a cold shower.
Definitely, yeah.
A cold shower for sure. Like before you came over, I did a cold shower. Like I do cold showers where it's like you're like it doesn't even phase you anymore. It's actually not even cold enough. Sadly, the shower turns off.
Yeah.
That's the bummer. That's what I don't get. Why even have it that really frustrates me how they don't cater to the cold. Like,
well, we're very used to living in very
comfort,
and very few people
well, that
use
was
cold as a primary shower. They use it as to supplement so it's not scalding hot. So they'll add a little bit of cold so that they're not scalding their skin. But you found that, you know, I imagine many of your races were painful in the way of physical
temperature. I mean,
temperature
cold
and weather and
like
rain or whatever.
Had I applied this practice, I mean, I'm a coach. I coach some athletes, and I mean that's if I tell them anything, like I tell them, if you're not gonna do the workout, at least do the meditation.
Yeah.
Because I know if they do the meditation, you're gonna do the workout. Just like you know when someone's not doing the meditation or breath work daily, or like, you know, because you know that after you come out of that, you're motivated. Like something clicks inside your body every time. I don't even know what, but you just then get up and you get it done. Like it doesn't matter if it's a training workout, anything. You just feel like you said, doing it in the beginning of the day is the best time to do it because you then have that, you know, mindset towards the rest of your day. But,
yeah, it brings momentum to your day.
But with the stress and anxiety everything brought last year, and then finding this when we entered the cold water for the first time, and you realize, well, every barrier was being broken every minute I met you, because I didn't believe, I was like, what? You can at first I didn't ever think I could hold my breath past over a minute. And was a professional athlete at that time, and I thought like, oh, that's just for people who swim a lot. And it's like, oh no, we can actually hold our breath up to 4 minutes. Like,
or
longer.
Yeah.
Like Wim's done at 8.
Yeah, we can hold our breath
underwater.
It's mindset for sure. It is a mindset training, and I think that you would agree that the you know, athletes in general, many of which we'll call something a flow state. Like they're in that mindset and that flow state where it starts freely flowing, where the breath is in line with the body,
muscles,
and the muscles are doing what they want, and that is flow state. It's euphoric, and it's not by any kind of accident.
It's super addicting.
Yeah, you want to be back there, and the problem is a lot of times I think we
find... But it takes suffering. It takes this to get to that
it's
spot.
It's a weird juggling act, isn't it?
You have to break down, like, walls during it, because, I mean, I normally feel that way near the end of rides or middle after a long, you know, or if I do a hard training on the trainer, the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes sucks. But then once I get it, the 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and I'm doing those efforts, I'm actually able to do more. My body's opened up, everything, like you said, you're in that flow state. But that's the beauty to get to those states. And I think it just shows you have to work for it. You can't just, like, I honestly actually don't wish you could just always get to that place, because then what would be next?
Yeah, we have to appreciate the progress and the practice. We have to appreciate that it's always a practice. And I guess that's where I was thinking was, now that you have a practice that's breath work and cold, but you're not, if I remember right, you're not keeping track of your numbers and times like you used to. You're not as obsessed over numbers.
I don't have a computer.
But I think, but I'm interested to hear about how your training now has changed. Not just because of how you're focused a lot on your art and you're focused on enjoying cycling rather than forcing it.
Yeah.
I'm curious how the breath work and cold training is affecting your performance now. Like, how are you feeling in
it
the way
allows you to just see it clearly. Like, and it sounds crazy to say, but like, I mean, I just try to shoot for like top 10 fitness.
Okay.
So like,
so we're back into santosha, contentment. Now you're actually okay with it.
So
Yeah.
like, so what I tell people is like, I try to be around that fitness, around where I'm going to be top 10. Because I know the level that it takes to be there, and I know the level that it takes to be first. And a lot of people confuse that with like, oh, that's a 1% or an easy, like, that's an easy change. But I know from being there that it's not. Like, the guy who's winning, like, for example, last year's Belgian Waffle race that was up in Cedar, it's 125 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing, all on dirt roads. And the guy who won is going to the Olympics for mountain bike. He's my friend Keegan Swenson, and I was 10th. And, I mean, I can be up there with Keegan, but he's training all day, every day towards that one stated goal to winning that. Whereas myself, I'm there to just, I just want to be fit enough where I'm happy, like I feel good, because it feels good to be that, where you can ride strong and ride long distances and not be too tired. It feels good to push, because we also don't push our bodies enough, frankly. Like you said, comfort. We're so comfortable all the time. But, so just, having that, like, I try to be top 10 fitness, which I know is just basically hours on the bike. And I feel like the awareness of the breath just has allowed me to have more awareness of everything else in my life slowly. I mean, again, it's not like you just wake up the next day. It's like each day you learn a new lesson or how it's helped you. And for me, it's just a lot, like, winning is not going to make my experience any better. Like, that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Like, that's truly what I've learned.
It's
like,
a temporary thing.
So why not just remove that stress and pressure? Because if you don't win, if you have the expectations to win, and I'm not saying that's like wrong to have it, but if you have the expectations to win, and only one person can win, that's what everyone forgets. So at that Belgian Waffle race, there was like 800 people. So only one person can have that feeling that we're talking about. So if you have in your mind that like, oh, it's all or nothing, like if I don't have that feeling, like, then it sucks when you cross that line.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that feeling after like training for months or years or whatnot.
The worst.
And then to not win. What is the?
You feel like a disappointment. You feel like, what did you just train all that for? Like,
it was a waste of time.
Wasted time, everything. Where now I'm like, no, it wasn't. Like, it helped me build my body up to what it is now. Like, and now I view it as more spiritual side where, like I said, I just want my body to be healthy. Like, that takes me riding. That doesn't mean I have to ride 5 hours every day. That means if I get in an hour and do some intervals or, do this or that. And that just has come, though, from experience and learning, like, okay, like, I don't have to keep applying. That's the thing I think we always make mistake, is we always just apply the same recipe when it's like, well, all right, if I keep applying and trying to win, it wasn't helping me then, so why would it help me now? You know what I mean? Like, that recipe, if you keep pursuing that, and a lot of cyclists do that because they're afraid to move on to the next, like, what should they do next? And so they hold on and they'll race then for littler teams or smaller teams and local teams. So then the goals get smaller and you know what I mean? Like, and then you're not getting paid because you're just wanting to.
You just want to race. Yeah.
You just want to hold that because you're afraid of what's next. And I mean, thankfully, art helped me be able to like do that. And like I never was like fired from a team. I chose to leave on my own turn. I chose to leave rather than, oh, you're not because I could have signed other contracts and this could have moved to Girona and lived in Spain right now, but like I then knew that wasn't going to benefit my relationship with my wife. Like I knew that wasn't going to benefit anything like for my life. Like it just, if anything, complicated to pursue a dream that had been built up when I was a child, which maybe was a child's dream but isn't like my dream as a man now. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's okay to realize that a lot of people are afraid to like accept like, oh man, it's been my lifelong dream. Like no, it probably was your childhood dream to win the Tour de France, but it doesn't mean that's your man, like your dream now as a man. Like
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, is about how change happens. Like we always have change in our life, and we change as people. Our partnerships change, our feelings change, our association with our parents change, the way we communicate. A lot of things, everything is in flux.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're in this beautiful, messy humanity, and we have to learn to find santosha. We have to find that contentment, in regardless of what we're doing, whether we're winning, losing. It doesn't define us, right? But it also, that narrative that we say that I'm a winning competitive cyclist,
mm-hmm.
and that's who I am, and I am sponsored by this company, and this is who I am, and that should paint a picture. It's funny, we're standing in front of your painting, but paint a picture of who I am. But the truth is, when it all goes away and you're in the cold, and you're sitting there, and it's just you sitting next to you, breathing next to you, sitting with you,
are you okay with that person?
Do you feel the same way about yourself? And many of us would say, no
way.
No, I can't. No, this part of me is not winning anything. This part of me is afraid. This part of me is scared. This part of me is anxious.
If that sponsorship were to go away, I'd feel way less about myself. Or where, like you said, you have to be able to sit in a quiet space and be like, yeah, I'm me. I'm cool with it. You know, and it like, and you have to be able to say, like, if all this were to go away, these sponsors, that make your image look better, you know, like, if that were to go, your image in the society, would that go away? And you're like, yeah, I mean, it's not going to affect who I just keep meditating. I meditated through a lot worse last year, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it just shows, like, again, we think, like, it's gonna, I feel like a lot of times we think, like, good times, like that will always be like are around the corner, but it's like, no, yeah, man, it's a wave. Like, you guys are not. A lot of people were a lot naive to not expect like the bad times to come. It's like, no, that's exactly why we do the meditation. That's exactly why we do all this. So when life does throw things at you, you can handle it better. So then they don't turn out worse than they would have. Because that's what happens is, usually when something happens, it started off as a pebble. Like, always when you drop it in water.
It's a series of things. Yeah.
Series of things. Let's say someone's not happy with you, and it's like, it started off this little thing, and it grows, and you're like, it was just this little pebble, like, but that's just how it happens. And then, like, if you're able to then meditate through that, you know, and be able to push through, and you just realize, like, oh, okay, like, if you don't meditate, you start adding on to those pebbles, like it's just like throwing more, and so the waves get bigger and bigger, and you're just making it worse, like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, the meditation, it's been major.
It's key. I mean, from meditation for me, I usually, not always, but I'll come out of it, and I like to call it inspired action. So if you're really, you know, Ram Dass says, the quieter you are, the more you can hear. And when I go in and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm coming out of my meditation with, this feeling, this thought. It could be just turn left going home instead of right. That's inspired action. That's coming from the space that's not my thinking mind, but my feeling intelligence, this inner intelligence within me. So now that you've applied that to your racing, to your art, to you know, the way you live your life, to where you're listening to inspired action, can you tell me, like, maybe out of your meditations, what things are up and coming that are inspired action for meditation? Things that you've, like,
literally everything I do. I mean, everything I do and say, or anything I'm doing in the future is from what I said in the past, like what I premeditated. And it's funny, like, you'll listen to actually like there'll be a lot of musicians or rappers and artists, and they'll say like, yeah, I said that 4 years ago in a song, and I now have this or that. A lot of times they'll like premeditate or preach more about like wealth or like things like that, but they're not wrong.
It's all intention.
It's all intention. We have so much power. We have so much power that it's unbelievable that we walk around daily and don't apply it, and will actually do the opposite and apply negative, things into our life. Like now I don't even like let negativity in. There's not even like a negative time. Like when you previously, before I started meditating, you'd always have these experience. You'd have maybe like an up day and bad day this, and like you have those, but you're more aware that it's just like something you're going through in that moment. You realize it's not who you are, and it's just been incredible how you just apply it daily and how it can just easily change your. And like I said, it sound crazy or tell people about it, and I don't like to. The thing is, that's what it's helped me do, is also not to preach. Like I don't want people listening to this and think like I'm trying to preach it to them or to anybody. Like literally it's just a podcast and you're asking me questions about my experience, and from my experience, meditation is just, it helps me like every day. And the best, when I forget who says it, or I just remember hearing some monk or Buddha or something. Sorry, like say like, oh, what has meditation brought? A lot of people will ask like, what does it bring? And it's like nothing. And it's like true. It doesn't bring you something like it helps you control other things around. It's just about having that a quiet time with yourself, so then you can truly control your. I mean, I love it best when you say like we are the alchemists, and like we can control that. And the more you start realizing that, you start applying it in your meditation, and then you start realizing like, well, I should just do this all the time. I should just be all the time positive, or be pushing this, or be like listening to better or doing these better things, because you deep down, if you're keeping your body moving or bettering something or meditate, like you're gonna be a better person. That so you're gonna feel better than watching TV.
Yeah. What's a good time for someone who's thinking or is just starting meditation, for them to actually see it, apply it, and what should they be doing how much should they be doing every day, in your opinion, to see results? Because I get that a lot. Like, I'm trying, am I doing it right? And so I try to, on this podcast, to offer different meditations that will do it. But what do people need to see results?
Man, to see results, you just have to do it every day.
Doesn't matter the time.
It doesn't matter. It just, you have to do it. And that's the thing I've learned. It's like, it's not like once it's 9 o'clock, oh, I can't meditate anymore. Like, that spirit doesn't work. No, it still all works. Like you meditate in there's like, that's when you realize time does not even like you can just meditate, but honestly, like I had people telling me to meditate like 6 years, all my whole life. Like you just look back now, there's always people trying to tell you to meditate. And like just like a story I told you kind of about my mom, where like she called me up at desperate times. Like when I discovered you, I was kind of felt like not desperate times, but you're suffering.
You needed like a remedy, yeah.
You needed, and so most people, like if they're not suffering, then they're probably not going to start applying.
They're not asking for help.
Meditation, like they're just going to keep applying their same recipe. And usually, you hear about the people who do meditate and then who find success. They always say that, like they're always at their lowest point, and someone recommended it. And it just happened to work for them. I mean, I really like the breath work, the Wim Hof, but some people just like to sit there or do guided meditations, or there's all these different types of meditations you can do, and it's about finding your thing. It's about finding what works for you, and finding teachers that work for you, finding people that your community, connecting dots like that, and then. Yeah, once you just start doing it every day, you realize like, oh wow, this actually has power and strength. It's when you're doing it once a month or every so often, or even when you do miss a day, it almost it's to me I think I have this from my cycling discipline where you realize if you miss 2 to 3 days of training,
Yeah, you're out of training.
that applies a lot.
Yeah.
And so that applies same to your training. A lot of people just look at meditation as like when they want to relax, but it should be a daily practice of this is gonna better me. And it does. I mean, there's not one time I've ever come out of meditation and been like, oh, I regret that. Like, that's never once.
I like that you said that. So yeah.
There's never once. There's been every other activity I've done in my life. There's been one time I've said, oh, man, there's plenty of times I've gone for my bike ride and been like, oh, man.
Should have stayed home or whatever,
done this. But never once have I meditated and been like, oh, that was a waste of time. Never once.
Yeah.
Never once have I come out of meditation and been like, in a negative mood. Never once have I come out of meditation and been like I said, it always just makes it better. So that's the funny thing is when I'm always trying to convince myself to, all right, let's go meditate now. It's like, what are you trying to, what's the argument to not do it?
I mean, I've sat in front of cold water and reservoirs.
Oh yeah.
Where I've been like, I do not want to do this, and that's the fear.
Different.
It's the conditioning coming in.
Yeah.
And saying I don't want to do this practice today, but I've never gone and done the practice and afterward regretted doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear you on that. But there is times where I've been like, man, I should probably rest my body today and not
But
cycle.
That's at a heightened level, getting in the cold water.
Yeah.
Doing it daily, like we said earlier, just purely meditating for 10 minutes is just you breathing.
Yeah.
So my body's pretty tired today from training, but yeah, I can still meditate no problem from just breathing.
Yeah.
And you can do it when you're sick. Like, you can do it. That's the thing is, like, that's, I can easily see that when you're looking at the water. You're feeling that fear and everything, but that's a different feeling than, like, oh, should I meditate? And it's like, yeah, it's just you breathing, so just put awareness towards it. You're not going to get hurt from it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about the Buddha. You brought him up. So the Buddha meditating and going into self-realization, and that's kind of what samadhi is at the end of is getting into that self-realization state. And I think there is a misconception with laymen, folks who are just learning about meditation, that the goal is self-realization, and to be self-realized and in samadhi, you have to be a monk or a holy man or a yogi. You have to be deep in your practice to be able to do that. And I think I want to kind of squash that misconception, saying you don't have to have special DNA. You don't have to be a monk. You don't have to live in the hills in India.
10 minutes a day.
You can live anywhere and give 10 minutes a day and become closer to your whole self.
Sounds like an infomercial, like 10 minutes a day, like you'll be so much better at this, but it's true, like, and that's why I think it's so funny too when you tell everyone about meditation and you sound like all like magic, voodoo, hoodoo, like what? People are like, they don't, but you're like, no, this is actually real, like the science is behind it. I mean, I'm wearing right now this Whoop band, and that calculates your heart rate, everything. It calculates the stress, HRV, which is your heart rate variability, so your stress, how much you stress. And so it can calculate, if you meditated, you'll make an activity, calculate that meditation, and so then it can start, collecting data on like, wow, how much meditation actually helps bring down your stress in situations or all that. And it's like, this is not people just making it. Actually is real science, that our bodies can do things through meditation, and our minds. Like, it's crazy how we'll have these successful people tell us, yeah, I'll premeditate, I'll do this, and we'll keep trying to find ways to then like get around it or like make the money. You know what I mean? Like,
why do you think people go around it? Why do you think people don't do the work?
Yeah.
Why?
Because, oh man, I don't know. Let me think about it. Then maybe why I want to do.
Like if you knew meditation was going to bring you success.
That's the thing. You that's the crazy thing. That's my argument is because you'll have this argument with yours like, oh man, maybe it's late at night and you haven't meditated, and you're like, should I meditate? And like you just said, it will bring you success. It will bring you success in any way. It just will eventually bring you success, and I know that for a fact.
'Cause it's just easy to go into our old patterns. Right?
Exactly, it's so easy. But then once you do, it's then another day's missed. Another day's
You're
missed.
creating a new pattern,
and then you're like, well, I missed those 2 days. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's like, no, it literally takes 10 minutes. And for me, I made it easy because you just would look at how long you are on your phone.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just was on my phone for 40 minutes.
Doing
scrolling
whatever.
through nothing. Literally benefited nothing. If I would have been doing meditation for 40 minutes, you come out of that way heightened. You come out of that way good. 10 minutes is good. All this other, like, if you really apply that, I mean, it's exhausting from doing it.
But you got to do it. It's like someone who wants to do
but you know what I
the
mean?
splits in yoga and doing it one time, like trying it and being like, I did it. Well, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
Keep it up because you're going to go back
practice.
to the old patterns. It's a practice. Just keep doing it. Every day you'll get better, stronger. And so for me, I always, when I teach yoga, people get to the ending of class and they think it's the end. And I always address, this is not the end. This is actually the reason you came to yoga is Shavasana. The reason you came here is for this meditation. Your body is now ready so that you can quiet the mind. So that you can, well, the mind is never really quiet. Let's be real. It's never quiet. It just, you're able to observe the mind rather than participate. So the mind never is really quiet, but it's still going to spin there, and you're going to sit in the center of that storm, the eye of the storm, the hurricane, and just watch it and be content with, okay, there it is. It's just flying around. I'm okay with this. I don't need to watch this, and I don't need to watch that thing and this thing, and I don't need to control anything. And we started kind of talking about this, and we'll come back to it, but that's flow state. That's, I don't need to control anything. Everything is working out for me. It's moving and flowing, and I am calm, and I am in flow
you
state.
flow with it as well. An object comes, you're able to move around it. It's not like you're normally when you're out of that flow state and something appears, the panic mode goes off rather than just be like, oh yeah, we'll just solve this. It's like panic mode, negative mode goes off, like this, that. When it's like, just solve. A lot of times, had you just solved the problem, you would have been done. It would have taken 10, maybe less time, rather than you taking the time to make a big deal about it, complain about it. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to call them up. Or it's like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of times, if we were to just see that, I just roll over this. That, because a lot of people get stuck, and they'll just be negative, and they'll be stuck on the road. So if you can just solve it, all right, have a good, and then get back on, get back on your road and get flowing with it. They're still stuck because they're still like, oh man, this negative thing happened. While you're already, wait, what? I can't even remember that. That's half the time I'll forget things because you're just like, you're now just living so purely in the moment that you forget like, oh wow, did that even happen? Or did you do that? Or I didn't even feel that feeling there anymore, or you know what I mean, or you're not angry at something anymore,
So tell the audience and me kind of now that you've competitive about the numbers, not really feeling whole, gone through some healing through meditation and cold immersion and coming out the other side, imaginary collective, in the artist, being dad, husband, you're here now. You're creating and evolving and always changing. We've kind of addressed that. I'm sure the audience wants to know where to see your works and what you're up to and what you're getting into, because I feel like, especially for artists, meditation and that going inward is where that creative process like flows from, right? It flows from letting go. It flows from that, and so that change of that rigidness to flow state is, I mean, I'm looking at a beautiful painting now, and like it's allowing you to express in a way. And so I kind of want to let people know where they can find your art, because it's amazing, and also to kind of talk about what you're doing with racing now. So can you just kind of tell like where you can find your art and what you're doing with racing now?
People can find my art on all my social media, so just at TJ Eisenhart, and a lot of times the pieces usually are a lot of commission, and so they're just sold I'm hired and then they're sold so quickly. So a lot of times, a lot of work won't even be posted up.
Yeah.
But yeah, just on my social media, people scroll through and find some stuff, and then also just send me a message and be like, hey, I'm interested in having you do a painting of this.
Yeah.
I'm never someone who will, uh, I like. I don't believe in just having a style because you have to grow. You have to be able to accept those challenges of like, oh, can you paint this for me or this for me? And if you're like, no, I only do portrait or only landscape, oil, and you're like, well, why? Being an artist is not being like just on canvas. That's what's so funny to me when people call themselves an artist and they're like, yeah, I'm just. No, it's like, yeah, you're good at painting a painting on canvas, but that doesn't always make you an artist. An artist is someone who can do it literally when it's oozing from them. When that person's walking around and you're like, oh yeah, that person's an artist. That's a different person.
Yeah.
Like, I meet people. I'll see friends I'll run into at the grocery store, and they're in their suits and everything, and I'm in my just I'm just me all the time, and that has come from my art. And like you said, meditation allows you to open that space inside you that allows you to just be like, wow, I'm awesome. I'm gonna open this space, be comfortable with myself. And when you are that comfortable, you're not afraid to share your work with the world, because that's a big vulnerability a lot of artists are afraid of, is if people will like it. But for me, I don't care if people like it, like, at all. Like, someone's paying me, like they're obviously not, they obviously are paying me because they like me and they know what I can bring.
Yeah.
And also, you realize that they're not buying the image or the material or the canvas, because if you were to add the canvas, the material, it maybe be $100, but yet you're selling it for $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, it's the process, and
it's you putting yourself into it. It's you going into that spot that you're talking about through meditation. And I wasn't able to go there my whole life. Forever, I just was what I talked about, where I just was a good drawer or artist, like sketcher,
Yeah.
But once I learned how to open myself up and apply, like, your personality in a piece and make people look at a piece and feel it, then that's when you realize, wow, I just turned on, like, I'm an artist. And then once that turned on, I started applying that towards everything I touched, which then, like I said, like with my brand Imaginary Collective, that's just full on art to me, and it's my way of taking the cycling world that I love and being creative with it and viewing it as an art. A lot of people, like I said, they just accept their sponsors stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, no, I'm an artist. I want to collaborate. How can we develop something? You know what I mean? A lot of people just be like, yeah, I paint on the side or this. It's like, I always tell people I'm an artist. Like, anything, whether that's designing watches, shoes, clothing, paintings, doing murals. I just finished the mural on Bluff, on the Bicycle Collective, and it was like 40 feet, maybe bigger.
Yeah.
And it's massive. And it's like, I told my wife, like, when I accept any job or any commission, like, if I were to say, like, the truth and tell them, like, oh yeah, I don't know if I could do that, like, you're not going to get hired. And you're also not going to push yourself to a level that you don't even know. Like, you don't know what you can do, so don't put a limit to yourself what you can do. So when you're seeing this giant 40, 50-foot wall that you have to paint in front of a busy highway, like, busy road with tons of parking, like, people see it all the time. So you mess up, it's in front of everyone. So you have to then learn to, you realize as an artist, like, oh, that's just fear.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I just need to be me. Like, people are just buying things because they like me, and they like the art. Like, when I apply me to my art, like, it turns out in a way that is just super radical. And most of the time, I don't even know how I do it. Like, it sounds silly, but, like, I'll look at this piece in front of us, and it's like, you're like, where did I start?
Yeah, where the inspiration and
it's like I said, when you go to that place, you're then able, it's like slowly, and it's a process, and you're doing one little piece at a time, and then when you step away at the end, you're like, damn, that's crazy. But it's the same thing. That's how I trust the meditation, is it's one little simple brushstroke that then when you step away, you're like, wow, and that's it all comes together. The meditation.
Start with one brush stroke.
Yeah, you start with one breath stroke or brush stroke, and like same with anything. Like I tell you, just have to start. Like that was my biggest fear when I would start paintings, was just starting, because once you start, you're in the flow state and you can just do it, and you realize like, oh wow. But the biggest fear is people just have starting, and then also once the piece gets to about like a quarter through, a lot of times people don't like where it's at, so they stop. But they don't realize you're just a quarter through. Yeah. Like, you've only just started. Like, there's so much more to grow. And, like, there's so many times, I don't do it now, but now, because I meditate and I realize I don't need that negativity, but I would, like, I'd be like, oh, man, this piece sucks. Oh, man, it's not turned out how I like it.
It's a better self-talk.
Yeah. Well, and I realize, of course it's not going to like where I like it. It's not done. Yeah. Like, of course it's not going to, and also, like, it might be better than what you ever thought, you know, like
we self-sabotage
exactly.
all the time. We self-sabotage.
We think like, oh, maybe it should look better, but like, again, we're always our own worst critic, and we're always, you know, we're not allowing ourselves just to start and being okay with the failure.
We'll start with one brush stroke. I like that. I think that's going to be kind of the title of this podcast. I
like that.
Just start with one brush stroke. So they can find you on your Instagram, as you use that most. Yeah. Facebook and all the
goodies. I'm on there. Website and Facebook, Instagram. So TJ Eisenhart on any social media, and then Imaginary Collective for Instagram.
Your podcast too.
And then I have my podcast, The Next Stage, and we just did a sweet episode with Ryan, and that's gonna be awesome. And so I'm always looking out for other. You know, for me, my podcast was a way for me to learn the art of conversation, another art form.
Sure.
I'm always interested in learning these art forms. We're growing.
Yeah, so this one will be released this week, and then yours will release soon after.
This week too,
So they get both long conversations with the two of us.
Yeah, it'll be great. This weekend's adventure is just listen to us ramble on and talk.
It's been good. We're going to do some more breath work and cold immersion together, I'm sure.
Definitely.
That's how we started, and that's how we're going to continue going. It's a really nice way to share a friendship too. Is like, I can give that to you, you know, and we reciprocate. It's just really nice to be able to share that, especially like a lot of men, and specifically, don't you know, that their friendships are very topical. It's like we go drinking together. We're drinking buddies. We're baseball buddies. We're cycling buddies. Whatever. It's very topical. You and I share a deeper. Level, and I encourage, especially my male audience, but all audiences, you know, to have meaningful relationships that have things that are non-physical, like meditation, as part of the core of that relationship. I mean, whether that be your partner. We get together
all the time and just meditate and do cold water. I mean, last October we were getting together every week.
Yeah.
Do cold water, meditate, and you just grow from it. Yeah. You just grow so much from having someone, like I said earlier in I think my podcast, where, you know, when you have someone else with you to do it, when you're doing a live session, you push yourself more. Yeah. Not in a competitive way, but you can hear the other breath, and your breaths start aligning.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, you know, this cycle. Like
I said, it's not a competitive way where your body's. It's just like you can feel the energy, and and what's cool, what I really like about getting together and meditating with people, is it's just like you said. It's not like, oh, let's get the buddies together, drinking, watch the fight, this, like, those are all good times. But this is so different, and it's like you just grow. You just get together, and it's this nice, peaceful vibe. Yeah. You're all there, and you come out of, like, because there's something you want to achieve, or something you maybe are suffering with, and when you leave, it's really a nice cleanse, and you all feel that, and kind of sounds like a cult right now, but
no, it's meaningful. It's a meaningful interactions that are not topical, and I think that's important. That especially for, you know, who the audience we're speaking to, that are looking for something deeper, who are looking for get in touch with themselves and also with others. You do that through meaningful interactions. Yeah. So we've kind of created that. I mean, just people listening to podcasts in general are probably looking for something to find growth and to be more meaningful. So. It's been a good couple hours we've been chatting, so we can find it.
People are in St. George, hit us up, meditate, go for a bike ride or whatever. I mean, Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
awesome.
look for TJ on some races soon. You still compete, so
Yeah.
a few races here and there. Look for your paintings,
Rad.
and maybe we're gonna have a couple of these in the yoga studio. So
Be awesome.
thanks for joining me today.
Radical,
And as an
man.
observer of life, observer of things around you, I appreciate your male energy, your masculine energy that is conscious.
Yeah,
You
man.
know that is not scattered, and that you're really focused on your three pillars, which is your art, your family, and yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And everything else is just kind of part of your personality, and I appreciate that. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks
and
for having me on, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.